Hello once again, the National Weather Service in La Crosse. This is our second spring flood outlook recorded on March 2nd, 2017. Not much has changed since our last outlook. The overall flood risk is slightly above normal, mainly for the Mississippi River main stem and tributaries in Wisconsin. This video will go over some of the contributing factors to this year's flood risk and looking at some of those long-range probabilistic outlooks. Again, if we do see flooding this spring, the amount of flooding will depend on the rate of existing snow and any additional precipitation. The bottom line for our flood outlook, slightly above normal flood risks along the main stem of the Mississippi and some of the tributaries on the Wisconsin side. Those tributary rivers in southeast Minnesota and northeast Iowa are at a near normal flood risk. Graphically, we can see the areas highlighted in yellow showing a slightly above normal flood risk for this spring. The factors that lower our flood risk this year include the snow melt that we've had that's been nice and steady and slow. The frost depth pretty much gone in most of the area, and our ice has melted over most of the area rivers. Unfortunately, the factors that raise our flood outlooks include the wet and saturated soils that we have, the relatively high river levels for this time of year, and future precipitation. The one wildcard factor will be how fast the existing snow out there melts and what kind of factors that could play into the river levels. If we look at last year, late last summer into the fall, remember we had up to 200% of our normal rainfall for that time of year, even into January, much above normal for precipitation, and that left many area rivers elevated over the winter months. Our soil moisture conditions as of early March here continue to be very high across the region, so these are all factors that would boost the risk of any flooding. Our current snow conditions show a little bit of snow that we've had over the last 30 days over parts of Iowa, southeast Minnesota, into mainly northern Wisconsin. Our existing snow depth on the lighter side across the area. And if we take a closer look at that as of early March here, you can see most of the existing snow cover from the most recent snowstorms exists across southeast Minnesota into Wisconsin, but on the relatively shallow side. If you compare to our outlook 2 weeks ago, you can see the difference with 2 weeks ago in the upper left and more current in the upper or lower right. Most of the deeper snowpack has melted quite a bit in the northern parts of the region. The amount of water equivalent or liquid equivalent water in the snowpack, again, on the relatively low side across the entire area. Looking at our temperature trends here over December, where we had near normal conditions, drastically changed through January and February, where temperatures were quite above normal. And even into this weekend, we're expecting temperatures into the 50s and 60s, which will melt away most of our existing snow. Further out in time, the longer range outlooks call for above normal temperatures through most of March, it looks like, and that near to above normal precipitation risk that we see in our area. Even the 8 to 14 day outlook, above normal temperatures and above normal precipitation. All right, let's look at some of those probabilistic outlooks. This shows the chance of exceeding river flood levels this spring, and the green boxes or river gauge locations show a less than 50% chance of flooding, whereas the orange boxes show a greater than 50% chance of just minor flooding, and again, that's mainly on the Wisconsin side. If we look at some longer range probabilistic outlooks, and the black triangles depict what this spring could be like, and the blue dots depict what a historical year. You can see along the Mississippi main stem here at places like Wabasha and Winona, the black triangles dip below the blue circles as we get into the flooding levels, saying that there is a slightly lower chance of flooding compared to historical values. That follows through to La Crosse and Lansing, Iowa, where the black triangles, this year's conditional simulation is running below the historic, and that it continues through McGregor and Guttenberg, Iowa. On some of the Wisconsin tributaries, though, at Necedah, the Yellow River at Necedah, although the black triangles are below the blue circles here, the overall flood risk, at least reaching minor levels, is at 67%. Whereas you get in the Kickapoo River Basin, choosing Gays Mills, for example, the black triangles are above the historical simulation. So again, a slightly above normal flood risk for those areas. In summary, again, the biggest factor to flooding will be future precipitation, especially with these current high water levels. Temperatures will continue to be slightly above normal, and the potential for more precipitation exists as well. Any frost depth that out there is pretty shallow, so the spring rainfall could go directly into some of the soil and also run off a bit, which could lead to continued flooding concerns. We urge you to check our different informational resources, including what we call our AHIPS page that allows you to look at river levels. You can also view our outlook and monitor river conditions as the spring continues.